Welcome everyone. Tonight we have a wonderful evening to share with you all about how we can live a calm, confident, courageous life. So we're joined tonight with our team, um, the team of Inter IFAST, and Kishirani is on here, and Leela is on here, and Anna is on here. And so tonight we want to share some of the maybe concerns that some of you may be having, given that we're faced with kind of a little bit of a crisis on the planet right now. And so what we're going to do is have some of the team members ask me some questions, and then we'll do our best to try to see how we can answer some of those questions based on how we can live a calm, confident, and courageous life. So, Leela, you have a question for me?
Hi, thank you, Braja Leela, for being here, and everyone. It's nice to be in this like association of happy people to keep our spirits up. So we did have some questions. I guess I will start one because it's related to the title. So in these times and all of these situations that are going on for a lot of us, all over the world, what does it mean to be courageous? How do we use this idea of courage and apply that to this current situation where there's so much panic and fear and uncertainty?
Thank you for that question. Yes, it's really difficult to think about having courage when we are thinking that we have no control, right? We're aware that we have no control over something. And given the situation in the world right now, not many people have any control. Actually, most people have no control at all. And so that is the scary part for most people, that they don't see, we don't understand how to have courage when we don't have control. And that's been one of the binding factors for us not becoming aware of our spiritual self. So when we talk about fear, it's really important to understand that fear exists on a lot of different levels. And so we have fear that's physical based. It's based, on our physical self, fear that's coming from our emotional self, and fear that's coming from our social self, and also fear that's coming from understanding this from a spiritual perspective. And so that's what our series will be about, sharing how to understand fear from a spiritual perspective. And that requires a lot of courage, because most people are not courageous to really want to go to a place of spirituality, because they really think that this is going to be solved on a platform of scientists and platform of just people speculating. However, we must take shelter of a spiritual paradigm in order to become courageous. Anna, you have a question for me?
Thanks so much for staying calm and happy at this kind of time. I feel like a lot of people are dividing into groups. First wave was about how we are all going to be in terrible crisis and how dangerous it is. And the second wave is like a backlash at how, oh, it doesn't really matter, it's just a virus, it's just the flu, it's not a big deal. So how do we exercise our intelligence and not go to one of those, like, I don't want to be afraid, but I also want to be intelligent about it and do the right thing? How do I stay in the right course?
Yeah, first of all, it's really important to understand that fear is natural to the human psyche. It's not that we're not going to be afraid. I mean, fear is actually built into our emotional system that we have as human beings. And that fear is pointing in a direction of how to protect ourselves. So there are three areas of fear that we need to look at. So one of the areas of fear is that we think that God will not grant us our desires that we may have. We have desires that doesn't have God in the picture. And so we're fearful that, oh, I have all these desires, and if I turn to God, God won't give them to me, right? And then there's a second type of fear where we are fearful of unwanted calamities, things that are going to go on, like right now. Things are going on in the world that we don't know anything about how to deal with what's happening. And this is a natural fear that we all have. It may lie in our subconscious. However, it's now coming out into our conscious. And then there's another type of fear of making mistakes and embarrassing ourselves. So right now we're faced with this fear of the natural calamities happening, right? Something naturally that's coming from wherever it's coming from. It's a calamity, it's affecting the whole world. And therefore it's making people very, very, very fearful. And of course, human beings are such that, we have this propensity for speculating. And so because we naturally speculate, we are all going to have different ways of how we view this natural calamity that's happening. However, the collective way that we can all come together to understand this calamity is to really have a background, or to really reinforce our spiritual understanding. And one of the basic ways to reinforce our spiritual understanding, in terms of what you asked, Anna, that people now are speculating in different ways, what are the different phases or whatever, people need to become aware that whatever phase we may be in, if we're really attached to our bodies, if we're really like thinking my body is the all in all and something might happen to my body, then it doesn't matter what phase you're in. If that's your paradigm, then you're going to be fearful out of your mind. So you need to get a spiritual understanding that helps you to know and to live this consciousness that I am not this body. And yes, we do need these bodies because we need to do things. We need to go to work. We need to feed our children. We need to live in the world. We need to do things with the body. However, we do understand, we need to understand the body is temporary. It's a vehicle that's there to help us to not fall into this trap of all these different levels of paradigm shifts that's going to happen when there's a calamity. It's natural. Fear is natural. Fear is natural. We don't want to hide from our fears. At the same time, fear can be put in its proper perspective, because what are we really fearing? What is it that we're really fearing? What is fear? What is it that we fear? We fear the future. We fear the future. And if the future is about our bodies, we're always going to live in fear, whether it's this big calamity or a small calamity. It doesn't matter. We're always going to be in fear. So let's find out, well, how can we change this? What are we going to do to change this? Okay, another question from you, Leela or Kishariani, you have a question?
This was actually my exact question. Okay, it sounds nice. I'm not that body, and I kind of heard about it, but it does not help. I still have this fear.
Yes.
I still do not believe in it. I still have fear about my child, about my future, about my salary, about what I'm going to eat tomorrow. If they close all stores, how I will survive at home. If they like put us inside and prohibit us to go out. It's still there, and like, yes, maybe I'm not that body, but I'm not on that level yet.
Yeah, I totally get that. And like I said, fear is normal. However, this is a time that we need to connect with our intelligence, right? We cannot let a calamity become a bigger intelligence than the intelligence that God gave us as human beings. So in order to connect with our intelligence, there is a logical understanding, which I think anyone, whether they're into God or not into God, whether they think that, okay, I can't just believe what somebody else is telling me. So something to know from a scientific perspective and also from a spiritual perspective. Negativity will lower your immune system. And physically, when your immune system is low, the tendency to attract any kind of disease is much more possible than if you have a high immune system. One of the things that lower immune system is to be negative. What is one of the aspects of being negative is to not trust, to not want to hear, to not want to make a change. And so people all over the world are trying to give this positive input to help people. Yes, these things are there. Yes, we still have to face all the different aspects of dealing with this calamity. However, if we remain positive in this situation, then we will have a stronger immune system to deal with it. All right, somebody, one more question, and that's it for tonight. Leela, you have one more question?
I think we have one here on our chat. So yeah, this goes back to all of that what you're saying. But it's nice to hear it again, right? Because we are getting so many sources of information coming in, and where do we get this understanding from? What are the things we need to listen to right now, or tap into, so that we can, because like Kishori said, it's easier said than done. So we need our source of information, of news, to come from that platform that you talked about, that different spiritual paradigm. So if you can share a little bit about our source, our true source for information.
Sure. And one of the things you said, news, so let's get the real news because so many people are absorbed in the news as it's coming 24 hours a day. And I think most people, when they listen to the news, they can get very confused because there's so many different paradigms of understanding out there. So best probably to only listen to the news once, to just hear just maybe sometime in the morning what might be necessary to hear, and don't listen to the news because you just might get more confused and more bewildered because nobody really knows. Nobody knows. Everybody is just speculating about, this little bug, this little small bug have a whole planet in confusion. Can you imagine? Just a little bug. I mean, just think of how great God is. Just think of the greatness of God. Everything comes from God. The source of everything is the Supreme Lord. And this one little thing, whatever it is, maybe it's not a bug, maybe there's some speculation about what it is. Whatever it is, it doesn't exist on its own. Even if it's created by someone, so that person is a part of God. Wherever it comes from, it's coming ultimately, because God is such a mastermind in this creation. And therefore, it's important to understand more about this mastermind. I mean, why spend so much time listening to what this little thing is, whatever it is? Yes, it's creating havoc. Yes, it's creating destruction. Yes, but you know what? The creation that God have, which is the human mind and the human intelligence, can supersede any of the different things that people are talking about out there. So where can we connect with this super mind? Where can we connect with this super intelligence? So there's certain there's certain scriptures that we can absorb ourselves in. So for us, we study the Bhagavad Gita, which is one of the books that's written by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. This is our spiritual mentor, spiritual teacher. However, there are other spiritual books. There's the Bible, there's the Quran, there's other spiritual books. My suggestion is that people just get absorbed in one way or another, in some deeper connection with a spiritual path, which has a source. It has a spiritual book. It has a source that to help people to understand more about who they really are and what they really are in terms of crisis. This is a crisis. And so this is an important time for us to come together. And to come together, we can only come together on the one source, and that source is God, ultimately. Because this, calamities are always going to be there in the world. Always, always, always. It's not going to go away. This one now, and there'll be another one, and there'll be another one, and be another one, right? And people will either get freaked out and more freaked out, or whatever. However, there's a collective group of people that will survive based on their pristine, elevated consciousness, and that comes from connecting with like-minded people, and it comes from hearing from a greater source, the master of all creation, whatever you call God. You may say Allah, you may say Yahweh, you may say Jehovah, you may say Jesus, you may say Krishna, whatever it is that you're calling God. Take shelter at this time. Otherwise, your shelter will be your mind, and your mind that's infused with enjoying this world, which I think now most of you know you can't really enjoy the world, right? However, if your mind is infused with still thinking you can enjoy, like the people on the beach in Florida, then then what can we say? What can we say? You know, this mood of not taking life seriously, what this life is meant for, will ultimately not benefit a higher level of consciousness. And we're going to talk more about this as we continue with our series. Our series goes on every few, well, we're deciding, our team is deciding how often we'll bring this series. And however, we'll definitely stay in touch, and we'll discuss this on a deeper level, and we won't have time to be so much absorbed in the madness of whatever might be going on the planet right now. Thank you so very much. This is a pleasure to talk to all of you. I'm so very grateful. This is a time for us to stay calm, to stay collectively together, to send out the love to everyone as much as we possibly can, to be compassionate to those persons that are not believers, and to be able to understand that there is a shelter right now. Read your holy book. And if you don't have any, find the Bhagavad Gita. Thank you so very much. Thank you.